Shalom. Thank you all for joining us for the Children of Light Bible study. We give Ahaya, Yeshaya, and the Holy Spirit praise, honor, and glory for allowing us to be here today. Let's go ahead and start with prayer. Brother Ahaya, we thank you for putting breath in our bodies, for waking us up this morning. We ask that you cleanse us from the inside and give us new hearts. Amen.
Amen.
The Lord's Prayer in. I want to hear everyone. The Lord's Prayer in
Hebrew.
Who would like to start us off? I saw Banaz's hand first.
Abnawa Shabbat Shemayim Kudash Haya Shekha Ahaya Allah Rakha Yaba'a Watazawaka Haya Aisha Hawarachiza Kowa Haya Kashamayim Abnawa Kailuwa Wasala Nawa Hawa Nawa, Pasala Nawa, Hawa Nawa, Wala Wai Nawa, Messiah Wai, Hawa Shai Nawa, Mai Kaya Hawa Wama Allah.
Finish strong.
I know. Good job, progress.
It's just a pop.
All right. Next, we have the Lord's Prayer in English. Micah, go ahead and lead us, please. Our
Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.
All right. Good job. All right. Next, we have our credo in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 4. Isaiah, please lead us.
Hear, Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Shemaya Shirah Ahaya, Salahaya Nawa Ahaya Akah. Hear, Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord. Shemaya Shirah Ahaya, Salahaya Nawa Ahaya Akah. Hear, Israel, the Lord our God is one Lord.
All right. Good job, everyone. Next, we have our what?
Numbers.
Not numbers. Our,
Hebrew alphabet.
yes, Hebrew alphabet. Amaris, would you like to lead us? All right. Louder, come on. Good job, everyone. All right. Now we have our numbers in ancient Hebrew. We're going to start with numbers 1 through 10 first. Zion, you can lead us.
1 2 to 9, 3 to Lasa, 4 Farah, 5 Kamasha, 6 Shasha, 7 Shemaiah, 8 Shemaiah, 9 Josiah, 10 Isaiah.
leaded us yet?
Led.
You led
Who
us.
hasn't
I'm
led
sorry,
us?
who hasn't led us? You led us, Eloisa. But you can go.
Good
Good.
job, Zion.
All right, go ahead, Banana. Lead us this time.
11. I shot. 12. I shot. 13. I shot. 14. I shot. 15. I shot. 16. I shot. 17. I shot. 18. I shot. 19. I shot. 20. I shot.
Everyone, one more time.
Let's go. I shot and end that.
All right, everyone, all together.
1 o'clock.
11. We're on 11. 11.
11 o'clock I shot. 12 I shot. 13 I shot. 14 I shot. 15 I shot. 16 I
16. 16. She's shot. I shot. All right, let's.
17. I should get everyone, not just Annalise.
18 I shot. 19 I shot. 20 I shot.
All right, the last thing we're going to do before we get into our lesson.
Our books of the Bible, we're going to do the color.
Oh, yeah, the colors. The last one before we get into the book of the Bible is the colors. Yes. Would you like to lead us, Azaya? Okay, go ahead and lead us, please.
Red.
Let me start it this way.
Blue. Red. Orange. Yellow. Green.
All right, this time I want you guys to repeat after us, okay? Blue, Cacao, red, Ottawa, orange, Cacao, yellow, Tazahawa, green, Yarawa. All right, one more time. Blue, Cacao, red, Ottawa, orange, Cacao, yellow, Tazahawa, green, Yarawa. All right, you guys are getting this coming along. Good job. All right.
Once you got those ones down,
One time is
little
right.
children don't tell the teachers how to teach. Stay in the child's place.
All right, now we have some books of the Old Testament, the first 10. All right, who would like to lead us? Go ahead, Banam.
1. Genesis 2, Job 3, Exodus 4, Leviticus 5, Numbers 6, 7, Joshua 8, Judges 9, 1 Samuel 10, 2 Samuel
All right, I want everyone together. Neve, go ahead and lead us this time. 1.
1 Genesis, 2 Job, 3 Exodus, 4 Leviticus, 5 Numbers, 6 Deuteronomy, 7 Joshua, 8 Judges, 9 First Samuel, 10 Second Samuel.
Mike, go ahead and lead us this last time, please.
1 Genesis, 2 Job, 3 Exodus, 4 Leviticus, 5 Numbers, 6 Deuteronomy, 7 Joshua, 8 Judges, 9 First Samuel, 10 Second Samuel.
Keep doing it. Hosea. Deuteronomy. Not Deuteronomy. It's Deuteronomy with an R. Okay.
He gets stuck on First Samuel, but
I
then he
know
says
someone
it
used
too
to
late.
say that you're wrong. And we all get older and learn the proper way to say it.
All right, you guys excited to learn about 2 Samuel today?
Yeah! Say knowledge! Yes. Feed your brain. You ready to feed your brain?
All right, everybody, you know the drill. Turn to 2 Samuel and raise your hand once you're there. 2 Samuel chapter 1. Thank you, Fana. Let's wait for everybody else to get there. If anyone needs help, please ask for help. All you need is one hand. Fine, you know. Okay. Turn around. Zion.
Yeah.
Right here. We're not going to sit down.
Raise your hand and say just the book.
Scoot over.
No, the other way. Open it and leave it alone. You don't have a Bible, okay?
You know how to get the books by himself?
Cause I
So not?
you keep going.
Does he know how to get the books?
Yeah.
No, I'm talking about Hosea.
Oh, Second Samuel.
Yeah. Everyone got 2 Samuel? All right. So we're going to get a little bit of information about 2 Samuel before we get started. Thank you. Everyone, you guys put your hands down. So the book of 2 Samuel was written by Gad and Nathan. Who remembers who they are from last week?
Nobody remember who Nathan and Gad was? Give them a hint.
If you guys were listening to the lesson last night, we were talking about a certain group of people. What is it?
When that's with daughter's son.
Not that. So,
I mean, we talked about that last week, though.
so, they'll tell you, thus saith the Lord, this and this is going to happen at a certain time. Or, thus saith the Lord, if you don't repent from your evil and wicked ways, you're going to die and burn in hell. They give messages. Yeshua gives that person a message to tell everyone else. They are called, say, what you said, Orion? What you said? Prophets. And we're going to see a little bit about Nathan today also. All right. And 2 Samuel is also called the second book of Kings. And it covers the time between 1010 to 931 BC. So again, a really, really long time ago. And 2 Samuel covers about 40 years. And it covers the time when David was king. So we're going to learn a lot about that today. But first, before we do that, we got to do a quick recap to see what you guys remember from last week. You guys ready? All right. So my first question. Who was the first king of Israel? Good, Saul. What tribe was he from? not Judah.
Benjamin.
And how you say it in Hebrew? All right.
Benjamin.
Y'all ready for this recap? Y'all studied. All right. All right. So we all know Saul did something really bad. He didn't listen to Yeshua. And we'll do a recap on that a little bit later. But Yeshua chose someone else to replace Saul as king. And what was his name? Say it louder. You got it? David. And what tribe was he from? Judah. And how you say it in Hebrew? Yahweh. Good. All right. My last question for this section of the recap. What did David do before he became king? But why did he fight the lion?
Lion, he felt lion, the bear, and a pack of wolves. And then he defeated a lion.
All right, so everyone said.
Lion was gone.
All right.
Wait, that didn't happen.
All right, so that was good, everyone. Good job. All right. So when we ended with 1 Samuel, we ended with some information about how David was going to be chosen next, and with David and Goliath. But there was a battle that we started in 2 Samuel. And there was a battle between the Amalekites. And they were in a fight. King Saul and the Amalekites. Yes? I was about to get there. But actually, I was going to ask you guys, who remembers who the Amalekites were from last week? All right, so we read in 1 Samuel last week in chapter 15. You guys can read it on your own time with your family. So, Yeshua told Saul to kill all of the Amalekites. Do you guys remember that?
Yeah.
And he was supposed to kill them all, but he left the king alive. But let's go take it back a little bit further. We learned why he told them to kill all the Amalekites. Who remembers why? All right, I'll help you guys out. Back in Exodus, when Israel was in the wilderness and they wanted to pass through, did the Amalekites let them pass through? You guys try to remember? No. Okay.
You all have to pay attention now.
That's what these recaps are for, to make sure y'all are listening. All right. So in 2 Samuel, they were in a battle with the Amalekites, King Saul and his sons. And one of his sons' name was Jonathan. And he was really, really good friends with King David. They had a great relationship. Okay? Now, in this battle with the Amalekites, King Saul died and all of his sons. Now, I just said that Jonathan was a really good friend of David. How do you think David felt when he found out that his friend died and King Saul? Do you think he was happy or sad? Yes, he was sad. So David was very sad about that, and he mourned King Saul, so he cried about it. That's what mourning is. He was really sad about it. So he had a time to mourn for them. And then, if we move over to chapter 2 in 2 Samuel, we see David. He becomes king of Judah. And how do you say Judah again in Hebrew? Can you remind me? Thank you. Yahweh. All right. So in 2 Samuel, chapter 2, we see David. He becomes king of Judah. Now, I just said he became king over Judah. Did I say king over Israel?
No.
I didn't say that. I said king of Judah, but not, I didn't say anything about Israel.
Right.
So who was king over Israel? The tribe. No,
Well,
he
do
was,
they know when you say Israel, what does that mean?
So let's go ahead and get to that. So if we look at 2 Samuel chapter 2, we're going to start at verse 8, and we're going to see about Israel and who's in Israel, a couple of the tribes.
Do they know about the northern and southern front? Oh, yeah.
So you guys got to pay attention because next week when we do a recap, it's going to be about a lot of this stuff. And we're going to have a listening thing for you guys, okay? All right, so we're going to read 2 Samuel chapter 2. We're going to start at verse 8. And we're going to see who was king over Israel, and we're going to explain that also, okay? So go to chapter 2. And then look at verse 8. Go back to chapter 2.
Underneath 8.
All right, keep your finger on it so you can read it. There you go, number 3 or verse 8. There you go. Everyone good? Akan? All right.
2 Samuel chapter 2, verse 8. But Abner, the son of Ner, captain of Saul's host, took Ishbosheth, the son of Saul, and brought him over to Mahanaim.
So, a lot to unpack right here. Yes?
What's Mahanaim? How do you say it?
Yep, I'm about to explain it.
Mahanaim.
So, this man his name was Abner. And Abner, he was a captain. I'm sorry, Abner, his father, his name was Ner. So Ner was a captain for King Saul's army. So Ner had a son, and his son's name was Abner. See? There, Abner. Now, Abner, he took Saul's son, and his name was Ishbosheth, and he made him king over Israel. So, we said Judah, David was king over Judah. So, how many other tribes we have left? We have Simeon, we have Gad, Asher. All right. So, everyone, any questions about who Ner is or who Abner? We know who they are, right? Ner was the captain of the army for King Saul. Ner had a son. His name was Abner. There you go. Good job. Mm-hmm. And then Abner took Saul's son, whose name was Ishbosheth, and made him king over Israel. All right. So we're going to go ahead and read verse 9 now. So everyone should still be in chapter 2, and their fingers should be on verse 9. Mm-hmm.
Verse 9. And made him king over Gilead, and over the Asherites, and over Jezreel, and over Ephraim, and over Benjamin, and over all Israel.
You guys hear that? Over all Israel. All right. Now we're going to see something in verse 10.
Verse 10. Ishbosheth, Saul's
Pronounce
son.
that name, one of your deacons.
Ishbosheth.
How you say it?
Ishbosheth.
Ishbosheth. Saul's son was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and reigned 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David.
All right. So how old was he when he began to reign over Israel? Verse 10. All right. I'll let you do while I'm going to read it again. You guys got a Shemai. Shemai means to what?
Listen.
All right.
Verse 10. Ishbosheth, Saul's son, was 40 years old when he began to reign over Israel, and reigned 2 years. But the house of Judah followed David.
How old was he when he reigned over Israel? 40. Good. No, 40, not 42. 40. Mm-hmm. So there was a problem. So there was a war, a battle between the house that followed King David and then everyone that followed Saul. So it was a battle. It was a war. Now, we're going to go ahead and move over to chapter 4 in 2 Samuel. Because in chapter 4, we're going to see somebody dies.
Let's move over to chapter 4. Turn to chapter 4.
All right, so in chapter 4, we're going to go through verses 1 through 7, but we're going to skip around a little bit. And we're going to see Ishbeth. He got killed. He got killed by some people. And this is how David became king over Israel. All right? Now, let's go ahead and read verse 1. We're going to start at verse 1, everyone. So, 2 Samuel chapter 4, verse 1.
2 Samuel chapter 4, verse 1. And when Saul's son heard that Abner was dead in Hebron, his hands were feeble, and all the Israelites were troubled. And Saul's son had 2 men that were captains of bands. The name of one was Baanah, and the name of the other Rechab. The sons of Rimmon, of Berothite, of the children of Benjamin. For Barak also was reckoned to Benjamin.
All right, so remember these 2 men. So Saul's son, he had 2 men. One of the names was Baanah, and the other one was Rechab. All right, so we're going to see what they do to Ishbosheth. Sorry. All right, now we're going to read verse 4, and I want you guys to pay really close attention to verse 4 because it's going to come back up later, okay? All right, so everyone, let's read verse 4.
Verse 4, and Jonathan, Saul's son, had a son that was lame of his feet. He was 5 years old when the tidings came of Saul and Jonathan out of Jezreel. And his nurse took him up and fled. And it came to pass, as she made haste to flee, that he fell and became lame. And his name was Mephibosheth.
All right, so. So who remembers who Jonathan was? Jonathan was who?
Say it.
Yeah, I heard you say it.
Whose son? You were gonna say his name. Yeah, he was Saul's son.
Yeah. And he was also really good friends with who?
David.
Yeah.
So Jonathan had a son. His name was
Mephibosheth.
So that was his son's name. So remember that name, okay? Because we're gonna hear about it later, okay? So that way we can all connect the dots. All right. So now we're gonna go ahead and read what happens to Ishbosheth before David becomes king. We're gonna read verse 5.
Verse 5. And the sons of Rimmon, the Berothite, Rechab and Baanah went and came about the heat of the day to the house of Ishbosheth, who lay on the bed at noon.
So he was laying down, probably taking a nap, relaxing on his bed, okay? All right, let's see what happens.
Verse 6. And they came thither into the midst of the house, as though they would have fetched wheat, and they smote him under the 5th rib. And Rechab and Baanah, his brother, escaped.
So what did they do? But before they escaped, what did they do? They smote him under his 5th rib. So they stabbed him. All right, let's read verse 7.
Verse 7. For when they came into the house, he lay on his bed in his bedchamber, and they smote him and slew him and beheaded him and took his head and gat them away through the plain at all night.
So they smote him under the 5th rib and they cut his head off. So Ishbosheth, he's dead. He really dead.
Can you live without a head?
No.
No.
All right. So he died, and in chapter 5, David becomes king over Israel, and he's king over Judah also. So now Judah and Israel are united as one. All right. Everyone follow along so far? Akan? All right. So now we're going to see some information about David. So we're going to go to chapter 5, and we're going to read verse 3 through 4. So everyone turn to chapter 5 if you're not already there. And go to verses 3 and 4.
2 Samuel chapter 5, verse 3. So all the elders of Israel came to the king of Hebron, and King David made a league with them in Hebron before the Lord, and they anointed David king over Israel. David was 30 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 40 years.
How old was David when he began to reign?
40 years.
No. How old was he?
30 years.
He's not older than 30.
He stayed.
Right.
All right. So now David's king over Israel. You think he was excited?
Yeah.
Are you guys excited that he's king over Israel? That's us. All right, so now we're going to move over to chapter 6. And in chapter 6, David decides to go get the Ark of the Covenant. Who remembers what that is?
Big 6.
Do anyone remember what
The Ark of the Covenant, no?
we talked about it a while ago?
In Exodus, chapter what? 37.
37 verses
1 through 9.
1 through 9.
We're not going there. You guys can read that with your family. Family time. So in Exodus chapter 37, they were told how to make the Ark of the Covenant. So on the Ark of the Covenant, they even had 2 cherubim with their wings like this to cover the mercy seat. So you guys, when you read it, y'all know what I'm talking about. But so in Exodus chapter 37, that's the Ark of the Covenant that he's talking about. So he went to go get it. And remember, with the Ark of the Covenant, it had some rods. So it was a rod on one side right here that the pole will go through. And then on this side, there was a rod that went through. So someone held it on each side. So imagine.
Oh, sorry. No, go ahead. I'll say it after.
So imagine this was the Ark of the Covenant. It had a pole here and then a pole here. And people will carry it.
Do you remember, are you allowed to touch the Ark of the Covenant with your hand?
No.
No. What happens if you do? She said you go to hell. You
Die.
you die.
Die. With
Mhm.
what?
You just fall dead.
Mhm.
Stop breathing.
And we're going to see. So we know you're not supposed to touch the Ark of the Covenant. So now, let's read and let's see what happens when David goes to get the Ark of the Covenant. Let's see what he does. So in chapter 6, we're going to read verses 3 through 5.
Okay. All right, 2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 3. And they set the ark of God upon a new cart and brought it out of the house of Abinadab that was in
Gibeah.
Gibeah. And
Uzzah.
Uzzah and Ahio, the son of Abinadab, drave the new cart.
So when you guys think about a cart, does it have wheels on it?
No.
Think
A
about
cart?
it. Think about it. Think about a shopping cart. Does it have wheels on it? So carts, they usually have wheels, right?
It's a cause.
Yeah, cars have wheels too. So
If you put too much weight on one side of the grocery cart, does it fall over?
Yeah.
And how do you pick it up? What do you use to pick it up?
It's usually right there.
Okay, so you use your hands to pick it up, right? Okay.
Ah,
Oh,
Okay.
Keep that in mind.
all right. So it was on a cart. That means it had wheels. Now, how were they supposed to carry out the ark? Was they supposed to put it on wheels whenever they carried it out? No.
No.
Remember, in Exodus, it tells them how to do it. Remember? This is the rod. This is the Ark of the Covenant. There's a rod right here. There's two people here that's holding it. One on this side, one on this side. The rod on the other side. Yeah. She got it.
Good
Mhm.
people.
Yep. So somebody right here, 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 and here. They will hold it with the rod. So they'll be carrying it. And they wouldn't be touching the ark.
They're only holding on to the stick.
So they're not touching the
They
ark.
can't touch the Ark of the Covenant.
They will die.
So far we see that it's not being held up by the rods. It's on a cart with wheels. Is that the right way?
Oh.
All right. So we're going to go ahead and continue on. Now let's read verse 4. We're still in chapter 6.
2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 4. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was at Gibeah, accompanying the ark of God, and Ahio went before the ark.
All right. And now what we're going to do, we're going to skip down and we're going to read verse 6.
You will need it. You will need it.
Yes. 2 Samuel chapter 6, and we're going to read verse 6.
2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 6. And when they came to
Lakon,
Nacon's threshing floor,
Uzzah,
Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it.
All right. So they were. So think about when your parents are driving in the car and maybe they hit a pothole or something or a bump. Do you guys move around in the car? Do you guys feel that bump?
Show us, what does it look like when you go over a bump in the car?
Okay.
Driving, y'all doing. She said. It's 6:5.
Speak.
So you shake around, you move, right? Right. And remember, a car has wheels, and what did the ark have on it? What did they put it on? They put it on a cart has.
Wheels.
Okay, remember that.
No, we have wheels.
Yes. Finish it up. I'm gonna sit down. All right, we're gonna go ahead and continue on. So the ark is shook. All right, and we're gonna see what happened. Again, we're gonna read verse 6 again. All right, so everyone stay in chapter 6 and go to verse 6.
2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 6. And when they came to Nacon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it.
All right, so we talked about what happens when you hit a bump or something. Excuse me. But somebody did something else in this verse.
What'd they do? No.
Before the oxen. All right, she's going to read it one more time. You guys got to shemai, okay?
And when they came to Nacon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen shook it. What did he do?
He took hold of the ark.
So that means
Put his
he,
hand on the ark
There you go.
God.
yeah.
Good. Mm-hmm.
So that means, what did he do to it? Show me with your hands. What did he do?
Took hold of it.
Are we supposed to touch it?
No.
All right, let's see the consequence of touching it. Let's read verse 7. Okay, verse 7.
Verse 7, and the anger of the Lord was kindled against Uzzah, and God smote him there for his error. And there he died by the ark of God.
Mm-hmm.
If
So
he was paying
remember,
attention, he wouldn't have died.
exactly. So it's really important. We learned last week, and now we learned this week. It's really important to follow instructions.
Because of a reason.
You know, did he think maybe he was doing something good because he was going to catch it because it was an ark? But that was not okay because an instruction is an instruction. If you were told not to touch something, what do? That's right, you don't touch it. And also, if it wasn't on the cart and they were holding it the correct way, do you think he would have died?
Would it have fallen or shook?
Nope.
So let's see how David reacts to this. All right, so we're going to go ahead and read verse 9.
Verse 9, and David was afraid of the Lord that day, and said, how shall the ark of the Lord come to me?
So he was trying to figure out how to do it. How can I get the ark to me? So he had to think about it. You guys think he found out how to get it correctly? Maybe. Okay. Well, let's read on. We're going to find out. All right. We're going to go ahead and read verse 15. Let's find out if he found a way. If he remembered what to do.
2 Samuel chapter 6, verse 15. So David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of the Lord with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet.
So they found a way. Do you think he was happy?
Yeah.
So he was excited. So he was dancing all over the place. Let's read verse 16.
Verse 16, and as the ark of the Lord came into the city of David, Michal, Saul's daughter, looked through a window and saw King David leaping and dancing before the Lord, and she despised him in her heart.
So Michal was a wife to King David. And he was so happy.
His first wife.
Yeah, first wife. His first wife. And he was so happy. He was dancing all over the place. He got the Ark of the Covenant. And she saw him dancing, and she didn't like that.
His wife.
Yeah, first wife, yeah. So we'll talk about her again in the future.
What's his name?
Michal.
No, that's what we're actually going next. So if you guys move over to chapter 11, we're going to talk about David and Bathsheba. Anybody know anything about David and Bathsheba?
Yes.
What you know about it?
David just committed adultery.
Uh-huh.
Bathsheba was taking a bath.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Whatever.
He's like,
Whatever.
Anything else happen?
His serious face.
All right. So,
No, sorry.
yes.
okay.
All right. So we got the full circle. All right. What are you going to say? He's at the baby
David.
doll. Mm-hmm. All right, so we got bits and pieces of the story now, so we're going to put it all together. Good job, y'all. All right.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 2, 2.
They forgot the most important part.
All right.
All right. So in chapter 11, this is where David sins with Bathsheba. So like Keziah said, he went out, and he saw her taking a bath. And he wanted to find out, who is this woman? So he found out that she was Bathsheba, the wife of Uriah, a Hittite. And we're going to get to him in a bit.
Uriah.
Uriah. Salakia Bible Pasha.
The Bible Plaza.
Uriah.
All right. So he saw Bathsheba. Bathsheba saw him, and they committed adultery because they were both married.
What commandment does that break?
Ooh.
Break them all.
There you go.
You break one, you break all those down.
Mhm.
Sister and brother.
And what happens if you break the commandments? Where do you go?
Hell, and then I wake up like,
No.
Hell, and then the lake of fire.
Yeah.
Mhm.
what
So-
does the lake of fire look like?
I don't want to know.
Yeah, we don't want to know.
All right. So we know they committed adultery together, and then David tried to kill
No.
Uriah.
Sure, it's not something.
So he tried to kill Uriah. So the first time he told him to go on down with his I'm going too far ahead. Okay, so he got with Uriah and he told him to go home to his wife. And he didn't go home. He stayed with the other soldiers. So then David thought of another way. How can I kill Uriah? All right, so we're going to see in chapter 11, verse 14, what happened. So everyone turn to chapter 11, and we're going to go to verse 14.
Second Samuel chapter 11, verse 14. And it came to pass in the morning that David wrote a letter to Joab and sent it by the hand of Uriah.
Yeah, we're on verse 15 now.
And he wrote in the letter, saying, Set ye Uriah in the forefront of the hottest battle, and retire ye from him, that he may be smitten and die.
So he put him in a spot where there was a lot of fighting going on. And he sent him there, and he died. So after Uriah died, Bathsheba, she mourned for her husband, and then David married her. So that was everything you guys said. So David married her, but do you think Yeshua was pleased with that?
No.
So, yep. So then, Yeshua uses Nathan. And who is Nathan again? He's a what?
He's a
Close enough.
Yeah. a
Oh,
prophet.
that's the way she corrected herself.
So he was a prophet. And he went down to David and he told David a parable. But the parable was about him because he took someone's wife and it was wrong. Now, we're going to go ahead and we're going to read. One moment. Let's see. So, Nathan told David what he did was wrong. And because what he did was wrong, the child that Bathsheba was pregnant with was going to die. So that was a punishment for what he did. So when the baby was born, shortly after, the baby died. So do you think they were sad?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But he broke the commandment. They broke the commandment. Yeah, they broke the commandment.
They want them and we do all of them.
That's correct. Yes. So that happened. But after that, David comforted Bathsheba, and then she had another child. And his name was
David.
no, David is the father. Solomon.
Solomon.
Mm-hmm. Solomon. Yes. So Solomon was David's and Bathsheba's son. All right. Now we're gonna go back a little bit, and we're gonna go back to chapter 7. Mhm. And in chapter 7,
Chapter 7.
David looked around
Chapter 7.
Nope.
and he desired to make a house for Yeshua. He was in a house and he wanted to give Yeshua a house. Mhm. What number is this yet? So that's what David was going to do. But then Yeshua used Nathan, the prophet. There you go. He used Nathan the prophet to tell him, no, you cannot build me a house. Your son is going to build me a house. And what was that son's name? Solomon. And then when we learn about Solomon, we're going to see that he built the temple for Yeshua. Okay? So that happens in chapter 7. Now, the last thing we're going to talk about is chapter 9. We're going to show what type of king David was. One of his characteristics was he was very kind. And he showed kindness. And we're going to see who he showed kindness to. So in chapter 9, we're going to read verses 1 through 5, and we're going to skip around. So everyone go ahead and go to chapter 9.
Chapter 9. Chapter 9. Chapter 9.
Mhm.
No.
All right, and we're going to go ahead and skip around, but we're going to start at verse 1, okay? Yeah. Verse 1. Everyone there? Good job. Good job. All right.
He like,
2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 1.
good version.
And David said, is there yet any that is left of the house of Saul, that I may show him kindness for Jonathan's sake?
All right. So David wanted to show kindness to the house of Saul. And let's see. Do you guys think he found somebody? All right. Let's see. Let's read verse 2.
And there was of the house of Saul a servant whose name was Ziba. And when they had called him unto David, the king said unto him, art thou Ziba? And he said, thy servant is he.
All right. And now we're going to. Yes.
Who's Zebra?
Ziba, he was a servant in King Saul's house. He was a servant. All right. Let's go ahead and read verse 3.
And the king said, is there not yet any of the house of Saul, that I may show the kindness of God unto him? And Ziba said unto the king Jonathan, hath yet a son which is lame on his feet.
Who remembers who Jonathan's son was?
Saul.
No. Saul was his father. But Jonathan had a son. We read about earlier in chapter 4 of 2 Samuel. All right. His name was
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth. Mhm.
Mephibosheth.
So, yeah.
No, we got it
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was the person left, and David decided to show him kindness. So remember, when he was trying to flee, him and his nurse, he fell and he became lame. And lame meant he couldn't walk. Yeah, he couldn't walk. He couldn't walk. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead and see. David decided to go ahead and get him, and let's see what happened in verse 6.
2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 6. And when Mephibosheth, the son of Jonathan, the son of Saul, was come unto David, he fell on his face and did reverence. And David said, Mephibosheth, and he answered, Behold, thy servant.
All right, so David told him that he was gonna be in the house with him as a king's son. Yes, he was surprised. David decided to show him kindness, and Ziba was gonna. So let me back up. So David gave Mephibosheth all the land that King Saul had, and then he used Ziba, King Saul's servants, to gather all of the fruits of the field. So they gathered. Yes. Ziba. Mephibosheth. I think.
If you pronounced it wrong, she's like, who's that?
Oh,
Mephibosheth.
like you said, Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth.
Mephibosheth. All right.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Mephibosheth. So what happened after that is they decided that he was going to stay there in David's house as a king's son. And we're going to read verse 13, and that'll be our last scripture.
2 Samuel chapter 9, verse 13. So Mephibosheth dwelt in Jerusalem, for he did eat continually at the king's table, and was lame on both his feet.
So David showed him kindness, and he restored the land to him, and he got to dwell at that house with King David. All right. Yeah, that was a great thing. David was a kind person. So that's it for today. Next week we're going to learn about what? First Chronicles. Yes. So thank you all for joining us. Wait, y'all. Wait. All right.
Stay sitting down. We're not
please-
done.
Please join us for our main Shabbat lesson at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Kwam Yashala.
Now,